Okay, we are back, ladies and gentlemen, back online, back on the Metrix channel. Man, it's been too long. It's good to be back. It's good to be back on streams with this new computer. Yeah, the old Metrix mobile bust up real good. I took it to the shop. I said, how much is it going to cost me to get this replaced or fixed? And he didn't know. So one that's still really good. He says, well, we have this one over here, this MacBook Air in rose gold. So I said, give it to me. And yeah, that's what we're using now, a rose gold MacBook Air. I feel like June Chinder, you know? All I need now is a white BMW X5 with a cream interior. But the good news is that my new laptop came with a free shot of estrogen to keep me topped up and a full year's supply of Tampax. So we're rocking and rolling with the new gear, ladies and gentlemen. But as you can all see from the horrifically bad thumbnail, we still don't have Photoshop installed. What a shame that is. I was going to cover Wendy tonight in a comparison with, because Wendy's testimony is just before Jeffrey's testimony, and they do conflict, they intertwine, they intersect. There's stuff that one person says that the other person says something different, and then Daniel Rashbaum makes a big fuss about it, which is quite good. But I think we'll cover Wendy's Adelson testimony tomorrow, but I may just show you the beginning because I just put her taking the oath and sitting down. I put it on 0.25 speed, and it's horrific. It's horrific what I noticed. I can't wait to show you. Anyway, welcome everybody in the chat. It's good to be back. It's good to be back. You know, I was doing a little work for a client the other day, and she said to me, what did she say? She said that the previous guy that was doing some work for her kept her deposit, made off with all of the materials, and never showed up for the job. I said, God, that's terrible. Did you call the police? She said, no. Do you think I should? Do you think there's any likelihood that they could help? I said, I am afraid I cannot answer that for you, ma'am, because it may call for me giving you legal advice. Anyhow, all was well and good with the client in the end. And we have a new computer, but it's wiped me out. Goodbye, buffer. Goodbye, any safety net of a future at all. We're down to about 300 euros now, guys. So we're probably going to have to get back to the real world job soon enough. But anyway, not for today. Today, we're looking at Jeffrey Lacasse. Okay, I need to kind of get back in the flow. How do I share screen? Here we go. Present. Share screen. It's a new computer, so I have to allow Google Chrome would like to record this computer's. Yeah, good. That's why we're here. Okay, just give me a second, guys. Allow, yes. Okay, is that done? Are you ready? Are you clicked? Okay, we all good with the audio and stuff like that, guys? It's a brand new StreamYard studio, so who knows what's going on? Let's find out. There he is, the man himself.
Please raise your right hand, sir. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes.
You may take your seat.
Okay, just before we get into it, guys, let's go and compare that direct segment with Wendy's oath taking, which, with a character like Wendy, and I'm sure the judge knows this, what is the point of getting her to take the oath without any threat? What the judge should say is, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Because if you lie, we're going to take you out back to the courthouse dumpsters and shoot you.
Affirmative testimony you're about to give will be true. You may be seated.
Ma'am, please.
There. What the hell was that? That's what we've got to put on quarter speed now, guys. That hair flick, right? What is going on with that? That is not human.
Say. Ma'am, please say and spell your name. Wendy Adelson. WendyAdelson.
I think she should actually speak that slowly on the stand. I mean, she practically does anyway. Yeah, Carrie Brooke doesn't like this off-center neckline. I agree. It's awful, but it's all part of her hypnosis, symmetry, asymmetry, her head holding, side, like, what do you call it? Like crooked neck. It's all part of the hypnosis, isn't it? It's not regular to the eye. So your subconscious is going, what is going on here? Anyway, Wendy will be for tomorrow when we get a good thumbnail. Let's get back to Jeff.
Please introduce.
Honest Jeff.
Introduce yourself and spell your name.
My name's Jeffrey Lacasse. Sorry. JEFFREYLACASSE.
How are you employed, sir?
I'm an associate professor at Florida State University.
How long have you been with FSU?
I came back in 2013. I was also there from 2000 to 2008.
Have you always lived in Tallahassee?
No, I'm from California originally. I went to Phoenix for 5 years from 2008 to 2013. Really loved Tallahassee. So when I got a tenure track job here, I was excited to return in fall of 2013.
Did you have a relationship at some point with Wendy Adelson?
How could you love Tallahassee? Wendy Adelson thought he was mad for moving to Tallahassee from Phoenix, a bigger city. You know, I don't know. I mean, has Phoenix got a good rep? I didn't think that had a good rep either.
Adelson.
I did.
What was that relationship?
We met in the fall of 2013. Apologize for my voice. I need to get a little water.
You can have water.
We started dating in the fall of 2013, September 2013. We dated casually in the fall and more seriously in the spring and summer of 2014.
Yeah, we dated casually. She was seeing about 10 or 12 other guys at the same time, so it was pretty casual.
When did the relationship end?
Well, that's a little tricky, but basically July of 2014.
All right, we'll walk through that a little more in detail. During the time that you were dating Ms. Adelson,
Breathing on my
I don't know. Maybe we need to move it.
It always makes me laugh when we look at the face of this murderer here, or any murderer, and you know, you're in your trial for your life, first-degree murder trial. It's an intense situation, right? But something about human beings, they still can share this light smirk. If what was going on, I think Jeff did something with the microphone, and Charlie's seeing the funny side of human life, even though he knows that he's right on the line of never seeing the light of day again. You can still go back and feel this, like, whatever it is, this sharing in a joke. Strange, isn't it?
Right, this is about the right distance here.
I'm not sure, is he, but just back it up in here. I know, it's hard to get right.
Maybe if you speak up, it'll be easier.
Yes, sir.
All right, so during the time that you were together,
Little stretch there, Charlie. Just opening up the lungs, Charlie, right?
Yes, sir.
all right, so during the time,
Oh, like he's on the couch in Whale Harbor. Just morning stretch, a bowl of muesli, and a stretch.
Yes, sir.
all right, so during the time that you were together, did you become aware of Wendy Adelson's recent divorce from Dan Markel?
I did. On our first several dates, that was the primary topic of.
Hey, thanks so much for the super chat, A. Johnson. And you're from Phoenix. Wow, great. Yeah, I don't know much about Phoenix, to be honest. But it's a good place, right? Fantastic.
Conversation.
And were you aware that this was an unusually nasty divorce?
Yes.
During the time that you were dating her, did you become aware that even subsequent to the divorce, there was ongoing litigation pending?
Yes.
Did you know Dan Markel?
I met Professor Markel. I did not know him. I probably spent 10, 15 minutes in his presence across the course of that relationship.
And were you specifically familiar with the litigation concerning Wendy Adelson relocating with her children to South Florida?
Yes, that was a topic of conversation for sure.
If you know, did Wendy want that relocation to take place?
Yes, on our second date, the topic of relocation and being stuck in Tallahassee came up, and the date was ended abruptly when she went to the bathroom, returned with tears in her eyes, and just left the date because she was so upset. That was about two and a half months after it was denied.
All right.
And it continued to be a topic, but that's.
But that issue seemed to be specifically what was upsetting her on that day.
Jeff should have walked at that moment. You're on the second date, going through all the what's your favorite color stuff, and all she wants to talk about is being stuck in Tallahassee and how the movie theater has really old carpet and the relocation and Danny Markel. Then she goes to the bathroom and comes out and walks out the restaurant. Just leave. You don't need that, man.
Definitely was. She left a group date suddenly because it came up.
All right. And did she have family in South Florida?
Yes.
And what family was that?
Well, her brother, Charlie Adelson, Harvey Adelson, her father, and Donna Adelson, her mother, were the ones primarily that I heard about.
Were you
Shout out to James, big man James, and Ruth.
also familiar with the litigation seeking to limit the exposure of Wendy Adelson's young sons to her mom, Donna Adelson?
Yes, in spring of 2014, yes.
And did you observe Wendy to be taking that filing seriously? Did she seem stressed or worried about it?
Every filing she took seriously, and she was stressed. I had reported to TPD that every time a motion was filed, it affected our relationship because she's very upset.
During the time that you were in a relationship with Wendy, did you have an occasion to meet her family members in South Florida?
I did. Well, I met her parents mostly up here. So I met Donna and Harvey Adelson probably 8 to 12 times up here. I met the defendant down in South Florida one time.
All right, so you only met Charlie Adelson one time.
That's correct.
When was that?
That was the evening of March 11th, 2014.
And had you already met the parents several times at that point?
Yes, probably 6, 8 times at that point, maybe more.
So they came here quite frequently.
Yes.
What about Catherine Magbanua? Did you meet her?
Quite frequently, like every week. right? I mean, every week they'd get in their car and they'd drive for 9 hours there and back. Oh,
She was present at the dinner that I attended on March 11th, where it was myself, the defendant, Wendy Adelson, and her went to dinner that evening, March 11th.
You're saying the defendant. Do you see the person in the courtroom
Yes,
that you had dinner with? Who's that?
that is Charles Adelson, known to me as Charlie.
Could you point him out and describe what he's wearing?
Yeah, he's sitting in the center of the defense table, wearing a light blue tie and a navy blue sports coat.
All right.
he's sitting in the center of the defense table, looking smug like a spoilt child, wearing an Arctic silver club tie in a House Windsor knot. Do you want to be any more specific, Jeff? Most people just say he's over there in the suit.
And so Catherine Magbanua, how was she related to this family or affiliated with the family?
I was introduced to her as Charlie's new girlfriend, essentially.
And was it your understanding that this was the first time that Wendy was meeting Catherine Magbanua as well?
That was my understanding. She was excited about Catherine Magbanua, and that was my impression. Yes.
All right. So anything unusual happened at
Okay, I gotta go back there because we need to do a video about arguments for and against whether or not Wendy Adelson knew that Catherine was the middle woman who was setting up the hit, right? So we've got to gather all this information as we're going through, guys. Bear with us.
And so Catherine Magbanua, how was she related to this family or affiliated with the family?
I was introduced to her as Charlie's new girlfriend, essentially.
And was it your understanding that this was the first time that Wendy was meeting Catherine Magbanua as well?
That was my understanding. She was excited about Catherine Magbanua, and that was my impression. Yes.
So that would go in the arguments that that Wendy did know, because why would she be excited about some floozy that her brother's dating when he's dating like a million floozies all at once? Asian floozy, another Asian floozy, you know, and is so, yeah, if she's excited to meet Catherine Magbanua, then that would be an argument that she knew she was setting up the hit, right?
All right. So anything unusual happened at the dinner?
Well, at the dinner, Miss Magbanua mentioned that she had I guess it was her ex-common law husband, who had a criminal history that sounded very serious, and I did raise my eyebrows at that.
Did Charlie Adelson seem disturbed or upset by Catherine Magbanua mentioning that?
I don't recall him seeming disturbed, no.
All right. What about after dinner? Where'd you go next?
We went to Mr. Adelson's home, and we sat in his hot tub and had a few drinks and talked for a little while.
Who's the we that sat in the hot tub?
Yeah, myself, Wendy Adelson, Charles Adelson was in the hot tub for a while, and his then roommate, Dr. Jerome Obed.
All right. So Dr. Obed was living with Charlie Adelson at that time?
That was my
And Dr. Oped was seeing Junam Chinder at the time, right? Did I get that right?
understanding. He was his roommate, yeah.
All right. And where was Catherine Magbanua at that time?
She did not accompany us back to the house.
In the hot tub, did the defendant make some statements that were of interest in this case?
Yes.
What were those?
Judge, objection, motion to eliminate.
Right.
Hi, Tracy L. Hi, Barbara O'Keefe. Kaza T in the house. Uncle Fester. What's he thinking? He's thinking only 2 hours till tuna fish. Only 1 hour till tuna fish. That's his main kick inside, isn't it? When he came out of isolation, he said to his bunkies, "Get me some tuna fish." He did actually say that. "Get me some tuna fish. I need a can of tuna."
May continue.
Let me ask a more specific question. Adelson in the hot tub mentioned anything about having connections to a criminal element?
Yes, he did. He mentioned having contacts on both sides of the tracks, meaning dentists, lawyers, professional class people, but he also had people he knew that were a criminal element. Yes.
And did you get more specific about anything about these people that are the criminal element?
He mentioned specifically, I repeated it to DPD, about Cuban neighborhoods where you might find that criminal element.
Okay, so he had connections to those type of people.
That's what he said.
And
yes.
what was the context of this? Was he just seemed scared about it, worried about it, or something else?
Seemed to be bragging.
I want to ask you about a meeting with Wendy at a coffee shop that occurred on June 4th, 2014. You recall that?
I do.
What happened at the coffee shop?
We went to the Red Eye coffee shop to have coffee, just to meet midday. And Miss Adelson.
See, why would he be bragging to Jeff? Yeah, I know some guys. I know some tough guys down in the Cuban neighborhood. It's literally just because he can't keep his mouth shut, right? You'd think he'd just want to portray as a normal, professional, good citizen. That might help your case if you're plotting a murder and framing this guy. Why would you brag about knowing people that might be able to carry out a hit? I mean, it's the stupidest thing ever.
Adelson canceled a trip that we had planned for July 11th to 17th to go see my parents, which was a big deal in the relationship, and she abruptly canceled it.
Did she offer an explanation as to why she needed to cancel the trip?
Jeff, it was a big deal to you in the relationship. I'll let you know a little secret, Jeff. Wendy did not want to meet your run-of-the-mill nothing parents from California, okay? Unless they're on the board of some philanthropic society, why would they be important, Jeff?
Not one that made sense. She said that she feared that we would not get back in time, and she emphasized, had to be back on the 18th to pick the kids up out of school, which would have been July 18th, 5 p.m., is my understanding. And I couldn't fathom why in the summer going through Atlanta, you wouldn't be able to get back in time. It didn't make any sense to me.
So she was worried you could be delayed and she wouldn't be able to pick the kids up.
Right. And we had people who could babysit. It didn't make any sense at all, but that was what she said. That day was very.
You see, with the moves that Wendy put in place to either purposely throw Donna and Charlie under the bus, she didn't have to mention the TV joke. She didn't have to keep the emails from Donna. She didn't have to. There's so many things that she did that threw Charlie and Donna under the bus. Maybe the original plan was for her to be in California. I mean, that's a great alibi, right? But if that were your alibi, it'd be like, yeah, but that's just what you would do if you were looking to have a good alibi for your assassination, right? It's tricky. She plays a deep game, that Wendy. I still think we're not even close to really knowing what she was doing. And Charlie and Donna still don't see it, right?
Very important.
All right. And so that occurred on June 4th.
It did.
All right. Did you see her later that evening?
I did. I went to the house to hang out with her and her children.
And is that her residence on Aqua Ridge?
Yes, ma'am.
And how was she that night? This is June 4th, right?
It is.
Okay.
She was a nervous wreck to the point where she was sick to her stomach. Asked me to get to her house as soon as possible. She was in that much distress. And she didn't have food poisoning or.
Yeah, but that's not being upset, isn't it? What makes you sick to your stomach is heavy anxiety, right? When you're worried about something that's about to happen, that's what makes you have an upset stomach.
Flu or anything obvious. She was just a nervous wreck. So I went to her house, immediately went to the store to get her Pepto-Bismol and a couple of things from the convenience store. I have the credit card receipt, is why I recall that so specifically.
I still don't know what Pepto-Bismol is. I assume it's just some brand name for like milk of magnesia or something. I don't know, to settle the stomach, right? Still, I keep meaning to look that up. It's a great brand placement. Pepto-Bismol. When your murder conspiracy is going wrong.
Did you have any idea why she's acting? I assume this is unusual for her.
It was fairly unusual. The degree of severity was definitely unusual. But that whole week, June 4th to 9th, she was very nervous. So.
And she didn't tell you it was because killers were in Tallahassee to kill Dan Markel, did she?
No, I was stunned to later find out that there was hitmen in town at the time.
Okay. So let's go forward a little bit to this TV situation. Do you know anything about Wendy's TV being broken?
I do.
And when was the TV broken, if you know?
Between June 11th and 18th, I think it's closer to the 11th, but 100% in that week.
And how do you know it was in that week?
Because we rented a movie, How to Train a Dragon 2, to give the kids a special movie night. And I have text messages where I'm discussing having seen the movie by the 18th with friends.
So you were able to refresh your memory?
Yeah, I was able to
by going
refresh
through
my-
those. All right, so
Yeah, of course you were, Jeff. You did all that research on your own back. You went through every message, receipts. You pieced together the case bit by bit, piece by piece, the puzzle pieces. I mean, this guy should be saying puzzle pieces all the time. He made the puzzle.
do you get the movie or?
Well, it was back in the day. It was Redbox. So I rented a DVD from a Redbox. It was 2014.
All right, and go over there with the movie and what happens when you arrive.
I walk in the door and Miss Adelson.
I remember those times, huh, when you'd go down to Blockbuster or the Redbox, and it would have that smell, that carpet and candy smell, and you'd walk in and there'd be a whole load of DVD boxes empty. Or VHS. Let's go way back. Yeah. I thought that was really good fun, going down to Blockbuster.
Adelson asked me to look at her television because there's something wrong with the television.
And what was wrong with the television?
Well, I turned it on and I was immediately confused because it really shouldn't have been a question. As soon as you turn the TV on, it's been struck by an object and is damaged and basically unusable.
Can you explain what the damage looked like?
Yeah, it looked like somebody stood in front of it, took their fist and hit it like that was my first impression.
So kind of like a shatter mark with spiders.
Yeah, there's like an impact crater, and then there's from that and it's all pixelated and distorted, which makes it very difficult. Or really, no one would watch this TV unless you had to. And
So pretty serious damage then, right? And we are to believe, and something he just said there. He said it looked like someone had stood up in front of it. So I'm guessing it was fairly high. because of the way he held his fist then. He said stand up and held his fist quite high. So it wasn't even like low down where the kids could reach with a stick or something. So we're to believe that Bannon Lincoln threw what? A cuddly toy? What are they going to throw? The hardest thing possible would be a matchbox car. Okay? With enough force to make such an impact that there were radial marks, spider shatter on the TV. Even a plasma TV, what do you call it? LCD TV is hard. Pretty hard. Didn't happen. It was Wendy.
I had second thoughts about that. I looked around the room. Maybe the kids broke it. So I looked all around the room, and it didn't seem plausible that the children broke it. They're very small. This object had to be kind of heavy. I'd thrown a ball around with them. I just couldn't see how the kids could have done it.
But you didn't see how it got busted.
I didn't see it. I didn't know for sure. And I didn't know we'd be discussing this in a murder trial. So I didn't investigate further or think about it very much,
Sure.
to be honest with you. I just thought, okay.
Were there other TVs in the house?
There was a TV in the back bedroom, a similar make and model that we had watched television with the kids before on that TV before. So yes.
Is that where you watched the movie that night?
No, I went to go hook up the DVD player in the back room. Miss Adelson insisted that it would not work and actually stopped me from even trying. So thought that was very odd, but I didn't want to argue. And it's her house, her TV, her kids. So I said, okay.
So did you watch the movie on the broken TV?
Yeah, we gave the kids movie night where we watched a movie on a broken television that was distorted enough that you could follow what was happening, but the kids are whining and crying the whole time. And I wasn't whining or crying exactly, but I was tempted to because it was pretty frustrating. And I just didn't understand.
It would be frustrating, wouldn't it? I think, does anything else spell psycho more clearly than no? We need to watch it on this one. Yeah, I know there's a TV in the back room, but it won't work. And I forbid you to try. Now sit down, kids. What a ridiculous thing to do.
And, what was going on. And of course, I had related that this TV is broken, it's unwatchable, it's not covered by warranty, you're going to have to get a new TV. And I offered to go do that for her anytime she wanted. She's a busy single mom. I'll run by Best Buy, get you a new TV. It was not like a 80-inch TV or something that was really that luxurious. It was a TV like you'd see in a dorm room. So we could have replaced it right away.
All right. Did you end up getting a new TV?
No, she turned me down several times.
Yeah, remember Charlie on the call? Back then, a TV was $5,000. A good TV? That would have been an exclusive television in any period. Right? I was in the tech store today. You want to see the size of the TV you can get for €1,000. It's like a car. It's ridiculously big. It's crazy. I mean, I don't know who would want a TV that big. Are all TVs going to be that big? Where does this end?
Was on that offer, and again, it's her house. I tried to respect her boundaries, and I said, "Oh, okay." But it was inconvenient because after dinner, it's nice to be able to put the kids in front of that TV while you clean up the dishes and stuff. And it sat there being an inconvenience for a while.
All right. I want to ask you about when is Ms. Adelson's birthday?
April 22nd.
Okay.
Earth Day.
I've got this out of order. Let's skip over that for now and go to the big fight in June. Ms. Adelson mentioned that there was a big fight toward the end of June. Do you recall that?
Yeah, that's the weekend of June 27th, 28th.
Where were you when that fight occurred?
We were in Gainesville. Miss Adelson accompanied me for a work trip, and we had that scheduled for a while. And we went. She accompanied me on a work trip, and we ended up having a pretty big argument Saturday night.
Albert says, in his opinion, it was all about the sex for Jeff, manipulation. What do you mean, that Jeff was only in it for the sex? I disagree. I think Jeff saw himself as noble rescuer and wanted to help Wendy get past this difficult period of her life, wanted to be patient so that they could have a proper future. But everything he saw in her was a fantasy. It didn't exist. He saw what he wanted to believe, unfortunately. But she made that very easy for him to do, and it didn't take him long afterwards to unravel the web of lies. I don't think he was just in it for the sex. I think if that was his game, he could have got more sex more easily elsewhere without all the crazy drama.
In the hotel.
And did that have to do with you accusing her of seeing other men?
That was one of the issues. There'd been a lot of tension bubbling. That was the major issue. But just to give that some context, I suspected very strongly she was seeing other men. Of course, your office had confirmed recently to me that there was multiple online active dating accounts the whole time we were supposed to be exclusive. But just to give context to that, that was combined with Wendy promising me the world in June, talking about me moving in, shouldn't get a Jeep, you should get a car, the kids' car seats will fit in. The kids should start calling you daddy was the most outrageous one and so she's like throwing herself at me over the top in a way that felt totally disingenuous and fake. And at the same time, I think she's seeing other guys. So it just kind of boiled over. I tried to have like a serious, honest relationship conversation with her, and that didn't go very well.
So you were kind of, at least up until all of this started happening, you were kind of full steam ahead, and it seems like she was a little stop and go, hot and cold. Is that?
It was
accurate?
a roller coaster, is what I would say. And I had felt since April that I was perhaps being strung along. I had that intuition. I couldn't fathom a reason why you would string a guy along like that. It didn't make any sense at the time.
All right. So we're in June, like 28th range.
Okay.
Okay. When do you come back from Gainesville?
The morning of the 29th, after this fight or this argument, we drive back. We drive back to Tallahassee. Now I had another ride back, and I offered to take that other ride if the fight was that bad, because we could have broken up after this. That was, but she wanted to ride back.
You rode together.
Yeah, we rode together.
All right. So you rode back together, and then was she leaving that day?
I believe it was I thought she picked up the kids the next day from Professor Markel's house, and that's when she met Amy Adler, and that was a big deal to her.
Amy Adler was Dan's girlfriend at the time?
Yes.
Okay. So it's at some point after the big fight and the return from Gainesville, does she leave to go to South Florida?
Yeah. I know. A day or two later, she definitely leaves to return to South Florida. She's in South Florida by July 1.
All right. And was that the trip that she was there for her dad's birthday?
That's correct.
Did you attend the dad's birthday?
No, I was never invited to the dad's birthday.
All right. And were you aware what the big gift was for dad's birthday?
No.
All right. So when did you see Wendy next after she leaves to go to South, or I guess after you return from Gainesville?
So during that 2-week period, we're exchanging emails, texts, long phone calls, video chats with the kids. Things are up and down, but it seemed like it's probably going to be okay. That's the impression I was given by Miss Adelson. Or I was being strung along 2 more weeks. But I see her again on the 13th when she comes back in town and is excited to have a date with me. So we had a date.
All right. So now we're at July 13th, 2014.
That's correct.
So within a week of the murder.
That's right.
Okay. Tell us about your interactions with her that day.
Yeah, we went to dinner and a movie, and we returned to our house on Aqua Ridge.
All right. And did she tell you anything asked to tell you anything in confidence that evening?
Yeah, in a very serious tone of voice. The topic of conversation as we're walking up to the house is about relocation, being stuck in Tallahassee, and Danny, as the conversation always was about, Danny Markel. She said in a very serious tone of voice, "Can I tell you something in confidence?"
Objection, Your Honor. Motion to eliminate.
Now, rule, Ms. Kappelman, you understand the court's rulings.
I think I do, Judge, but asked to approach.
Please approach.
Hey, Q4077. I don't like Charlie's suit. And you're out of here. She gone.
The bailiff is going to escort you out. Mr. Lacasse, you can step down from the witness stand for now.
Okay.
Please step back outside.
Place your head face down on your chair.
Okay, Rashbam's going to make a big fuss now, which is quite good. But should we check out this thing from Rabbit? Has everyone seen this? How do we do that? All right, we got to be double quick here. Okay, 3 hours. 3 hour mark. See, Jeff has been away for what, 8 months now, from the first interview to the second interview, piecing it all together, piece by piece by piece by piece, and he's come back to tell General Adelson what's what, and he's realizing that she did this.
Did you hear it?
All I heard was she did this.
Yeah, did you hear the whisper? Says she did this. And then there's a lower whisper, and it took me forever to figure it out. And I think I've got it. It says, I can't help now.
I disagree. I heard that before. I heard that comment before. I disagree. He says, I can't help now, because it doesn't fit with his character profile. Why would he say that? I can't help now. Doesn't fit with the situation or his character in my mind, but it's inaudible, so I guess it's down to your opinion. But yeah, it's just interesting to see him have that moment of realization as he's going through it all with the police, learning a little bit more in pieces about the police. Anyone want us to check out our video on the Jeffrey Lacasse interview? You head over to our channel page, and it's where is it? It's right there. An excellent video. But we give all credit to Jeff Lacasse, who nailed it, came in and laid it down right there. Look at this terrible thumbnail. I have to sort that out tomorrow. Okay, back to Daniel Rashbaum. This should be very good value.
Everyone can be seated. Bringing up both the motion in limine and the prior order that have been issued on this matter.
Yeah, look busy, Dan. Look official. Look loyally. Smell your finger.
Point.
Look at Charlie and Dan Rashbaum there, sort of mirroring each other. They look like they're in a synchronized dance act.
Ms. Adelson has specifically denied making this statement. Why is this an improper ground for the state to explore this on impeachment?
So they are talking about, this is kind of complicated. We need to play Wendy's portion of the video, but we'll get to that tomorrow. Jeff is saying that Wendy said to him that Charlie really did look into hiring a hitman the year prior, right? And the state want to ask Jeff about it. But Rashbaum is saying that that shouldn't be allowed because Wendy said it didn't happen. Is that what it is? It's kind of hard to work out.
State eliciting this as a part of its case in chief. However, Mr. Rauschbaum, at this point, Ms. Adelson has specifically denied making this statement. Why is this an improper ground for the state to explore this on impeachment?
It's still hearsay, Your Honor. It's double hearsay. It's not done to
All sorts of matters that otherwise would be inadmissible can become impeachment.
Judge, if Dr. Adelson, Charlie Adelson made that statement to Mr. Lacasse and he denied it, he could impeach him. They're impeaching another witness. That's not allowed. That's number one. Number two, I brought up
The
this issue,
impeachment of one witness's testimony through another is not allowed.
but they're impeaching her to go to his statement.
So he's saying that because Jeff is saying Wendy told him that something Charlie said, when Jeff's testimony can't go to prove the fact that Charlie said something to Wendy. But they're not trying to do that anyway. It's a real reach for Daniel Rashbaum, but he does kind of get somewhere with the judge.
They're stuck with her answer. They could have kept on cross-examining her of why they thought her answer was wrong. They can't now backdoor it through hearsay in another witness. That was the whole point of the motion. Similarly, Judge, we brought this issue up first thing this morning, sidebar, because if they were going to be allowed to do it, I was going to ask Miss Adelson other questions on this issue. They said they weren't going to do it. So I didn't ask her those questions. And I didn't ask her those questions because I didn't want to open the door to it.
Hey, thanks so much, Ride-In Shotgun, for the super sticker. Couldn't buy me a coffee to work, so here's a sticker. Oh, thank you so much, Riding. That's really appreciated.
And I can't call Miss Adelson back as a witness because she has a Fifth Amendment right and I can't give her immunity. I brought this up for this very reason.
This is where Dan Rashbaum really laid his eggs, isn't it? I mean, he's got this thing. I can't call Miss Adelson back up because I'm acting on behalf of the defense, and she's got a Fifth Amendment privilege to silence, and I can't give her immunity. So we have to throw out the case and have a mistrial.
She denied the statement yesterday. That's why I brought it up today. They can't backdoor a double hearsay statement based on a denial by that witness. Can't do it.
Ms. Kappelman.
It's not hearsay, it's offered for impeachment. Ms. Adelson was specifically drawn to the time and place of this statement, and after she made it, she denied it. This witness heard her make the statement. Now admissible to impeach her testimony.
This is not an insignificant fact or an immaterial one. Mr. Rauschbaum, if you wish to find some authority, I will give you 5 minutes to look if you have anything to argue as to this matter. Ms. Adelson has denied making the statement. She can be impeached through other witnesses regarding this matter.
Judge,
I will give you an opportunity to find some authority. If there's something more specific you can point me to other than what you're arguing right now.
Judge, I brought this up this morning so that I could front it with Miss Adelson, and we were told, you were told, that they weren't going down this path. If I'd been told something different, I would have done something different that I can no longer do. It's precisely why I went sidebar first thing in the morning.
What is your response?
This is his big talent, as he sees it, isn't it? Charming the judge, saying we were told, you were told, Judge. They lied, Judge, to you.
Answers to that portion of the argument, Ms. Kappelman.
I don't know that that's a legal argument. I was asked if I was intending to offer double hearsay. I said I would never be offering hearsay without an exception.
I assume he's making this on fairness grounds, which goes to this would have changed his strategy of how he examined the witness.
I don't know what to do about that, Judge. I can't help Mr. Rashbaum have better strategy.
Nice, Georgia. You see, that's That's why you're number one, Georgia. Well, I don't know what to do about that, Judge. I can't help Mr. Rashbaum have a better strategy than this.
Was real specific with the witness to get that denial. So I'm not sure why the issue wasn't raised at that point.
Judge, I was really specific this morning that the double hearsay related to my motion to eliminate related to Jeffrey Lacasse. You knew what I was talking about.
Hold on. My ears work perfectly well. You don't have to raise your voice. Make your argument, please.
Everyone sidebar knew exactly what I was talking about. And we were told, Ms. Kappelman told you as an officer of the court that she was not going down that road. And so when Ms. Adelson was on the stand, I stayed away from it, not to open the door to it. She knew exactly what statement we were talking about. If you tell me you didn't know what statement I was talking about, I'll sit down. I was very specific. I was very specific that it was the double hearsay statement related to Jeffrey Lacasse that we filed our motion in limine on. I was very specific that it applied to this.
Yeah, I know, Carrie. What a huge impact to Jeff's life, having to come into this courthouse for 10 years. Well, 5 years already now, right? And it's still going to be more. It's pretty much his whole life. Oh.
And also the Juvia dinner. Those were the words specifically out of my mouth back there, because when she asked the questions of Ms. Adelson, which were completely appropriate, I thought she might be going down this path. And so the first thing in the morning, we went sidebar so I could stop the charade, so that if the court were going to allow it to come in, I would handle it. She stayed silent. And I've been jumping up and down to try to prevent any possible mistrial twice, and still no mention of it. It's completely unfair, completely improper, and it denies him his constitutional right of due process.
Again, that's why I raised the issue. This goes to the fairness aspect of it. We'll take a brief 5-minute recess. If you have any authority you wish to present, I will entertain it further.
So you've got 5 minutes to go and find some relevant case law that can back you up and say, yes, in the 1981 case of Weaver v. State, blah, 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 blah. I mean, how do you even do that? I guess a good lawyer knows it all. They have all that in their head, right? Okay, we need to skip this bit. As much as I like the Great Seal of Florida.
Plus, either party has additional.
Hey, they were synchronized again.
Plus, either party has additional.
Maybe we can do a nice little edit where they're dancing.
Argument. I am prepared to rule at this point.
I did have one thing I wanted to raise that I'm not sure here before. Ms. Adelson is still under the state subpoena, so I think she could be brought back for whatever additional questions need to be asked.
As to that point, Mr. Kappelman, the ability to extend immunity, you have.
Mr. Rauschbaum does not. He calls her as a part of her, as a part of the defendant's case. What is your response to that?
I don't know. I mean, we're still in the state's case, so.
Well, the defense can't call a witness within the state's case.
I know, that's a good point. I just wanted to point out that she is still under my subpoena, so that might be a solution. I don't know.
Why doesn't Georgia just agree to call her back?
it hasn't been proffered what questions would be asked that weren't asked. I don't know what that is, but maybe there's something that could be worked out if that was your Honor's ruling, was that that would be required.
Mr. Rauschbaum, anything else?
Judge, I'll just rest on 9609 Florida rule and its progeny, and Crawford and its progeny. And what I said before.
Very well. The court's ruling is as follows. The defense's motion in limine went to the state's ability as a part of its case in chief to present testimony from Mr. Lacasse that would be hearsay within hearsay.
There you go, Rabbit. Sorry, I didn't know it was low.
The motion in limine was granted on those grounds. However, the motion in limine and also the court's ruling did not discuss or limit in any way state's ability to present this information as impeachment. Ms. Adelson, at this point, she has testified, she has denied the statement taking place whatsoever. However, as it goes to fundamental fairness grounds, which are also a part of the ruling that has to be made, the defense did earlier at sidebar ask if this was going to come up in some way. As it related to substantive evidence, I believe the state responded it was not. The state did not make any representations concerning impeachment. I will find that this did affect the defense's ability or their strategy, at least in examining the witness, as the witness also can invoke her Fifth Amendment right and through a separate pleading has stated through counsel that she will invoke any Fifth Amendment right unless she is being granted immunity for that testimony. The ability of the defense to address this matter is compounded by the constitutional right of the witness and their inability to call her. On fundamental fairness grounds, I'm not going to permit the impeachment on this topic. You may proffer the testimony from there. If the state is intending to recall the witness at that point, the issue of impeachment may be revisited. Does everyone understand?
Yes, may I make one clarification for the record?
Go ahead.
It's already on the record. We were at sidebar. What I was asked, my understanding of what I was asked is, was I intending to introduce any hearsay within hearsay through Mr. Lacasse? And my answer was that I would not introduce any hearsay within hearsay without exceptions. I think it was clear what I was intending to do was set up an impeachment through Ms. Adelson by drawing her attention to the specific date and time of the statement and asking her specifically if she made the statement, which she denied. I find it hard to believe that that doesn't alert the defense in fairness that that's what I'm intending to do. And that's what I did in the last trial successfully, which the defense in this case was in attendance at. So I think it's unfair to the state, but I understand Your Honor's ruling and we'll be ready to proceed.
Please bring in the witness so we can go through the proffer. Our words are stock and trade.
Hey, thanks so much, C. Malone, for the super sticker. Thank you.
If you were uncertain, Ms. Kappelman, as to what Mr. Rauschbaum was raising, we probably should have clarified it at that point.
Yes, sir.
Please bring in the witness.
I think so.
Also, so we don't have to go through this again, Mr. Rauschbaum, as it pertains to the other rulings in the defense's motion in limine that the court has previously addressed. Although they...
Hey, BB, I like the picture we have of Judge Everett. He's great with the headphones. But we're going to be changing all that soon anyway. So with some new artwork, guys.
May not be certain rulings pertain to the state's ability to present as substantive evidence. You understand this does not affect their ability to present it as impeachment as it pertains to all of the items that have been ruled on previously. June and Chimda, meaning everything that we've been previously addressing through these motions.
Well, they still have to follow the extrinsic evidence rule, collateral evidence rule.
My point being, something that cannot come in substantively can still be impeached with. You understand this?
Can, yes.
I'm not saying it's necessarily going to happen.
Right.
But so we're not doing this song and dance about any other matters. All right. If we need to have sidebars and you're attempting to clarify something, if you're asking specifically as to impeachment, you need to be specific as well.
Fair enough, Your Honor.
Ms. Dugan, please bring in Mr. Lacasse. You may be seated, Mr. Lacasse.
Ms. Kappelman, you may finish your sequence of questions on the topic you were starting.
Is it just me, or was the jury booth completely empty? Aren't they supposed to be sitting there?
Ms. Kappelman, you may finish your sequence of questions on the topic you were starting.
Mr. Lacasse, when we broke, we were discussing a statement made to you by Wendy Adelson on July 13th, 2014 at her residence here in Tallahassee. Do you recall which statement?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and what was that statement?
After asking to speak to me confidentially, she told me that last summer that Charles Adelson had looked into all possible options to take care of the Danny Markel problem, including hiring a hitman, and that it would cost about $15,000. I revised the amount. I said potentially that could have been $50,000. I'm unsure of the amount. The rest of the statement, very confident it's true.
So you weren't sure whether she said 15 or 50.
Right.
But she didn't say 15 or 50. She said one or the other.
She said one number that I thought was 15 when I talked to TPD, and later thought that could have been 50.
Okay, I'm with you. And this statement was made in what context? What was her demeanor?
Well, she asked to speak to me confidentially. She was dead serious about it. It was a chilling statement. I had a reaction to it. My stomach flipped, a little scary, a little weird. So it was a very serious statement she's making.
So clearly not a joke.
No, it was not a joke. There are other jokes in that domain. This was completely distinct and discrete from any joke. This was not funny.
And this statement was made within 5 days of Mr. Markel's murder by a hitman.
That's correct.
And was this said in any way in the context of the relocation issue?
Well, what preceded her saying that was a discussion of under what circumstances could she or would she leave Tallahassee? And she stated that the only way to leave Tallahassee was if something happened to Danny. That's what led into the statement I just repeated.
All right.
To you.
Thank you. That's the proffer, Your Honor.
Any cross-examination concerning the subject of the proffer?
I'm sorry,
Any cross-examination as to the subject of the proffer?
yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
The statement was chilling and serious, right?
Yes,
Did you go to the police?
I did not.
You were so scared about the statement that you didn't alert the police the next day, that night.
I did not,
Why not?
because it was a past tense statement, and I thought Charlie was a scary guy, but it's about something supposedly he did last summer. I did not know there was a present case, a present instant threat. I did not know him and had visited Tallahassee. I didn't have the.
All right, now I could call the police. Hey, Wendy, you want to go out tomorrow?
That's not quite how it went.
No, you didn't try to go on a date with her the next day?
No, we did go on a date the next day, and then she cut off all contact without barely talking to me on that date. So I didn't have a lot of time to process it, but it was a shocking enough thing that it took a day or or two to process. Also, I had
Yeah, but Wendy had a lot of time to process it, didn't she? In the run up, and not tell her family about it. Yeah. Just needed that statement to come from someone that wasn't her. Very similar to what she did with Jane, right? Jane, do you want to go on a walk so I can tell you about murdering jealous Jeff? And how he flew into a rage in Gainesville and he was going through my phone and he was talking in legal terminology. So that later you can come into the interrogation room and write his name in big letters on the wall. Ah, man. So now she's just putting information out, telling Jane stuff, telling Jeff stuff. So Jeff goes to the police and says, hey, look, Wendy told me that Charlie looked into hiring a hitman seriously. Last year, it could have been him. She wanted Charlie to go down. She wanted her mother to go down. Why? Because she was sick of being treated as this child that needed babying. A lot of people think that she liked that. I don't think that. I don't think she liked that at all. Oh, you want to help me out of my broken marriage? Yeah, go on, help me out of my broken marriage. And I hope one day you know it's because of me that I put you behind bars for the rest of your lives. What do you think of me now?
repeated that statement to a friend of mine before the murder, and I didn't get a reaction from her like, this is shocking. I sought feedback from a friend who would verify that I made that statement before the murder, and she said, she didn't say, oh, geez, you should call the police. So it wasn't just me. There was another person.
Hey, KMA, we've had a little setback in the production line at the Metrix merch factory because the laptop went broke, just completely broke down. Anyway, we got a new laptop today, so we're going to be getting back onto the merch development, and yeah, that should be coming out real soon. What are we, Friday? Within a week, there'll be some stuff in the merch shop, and it's going to be gold, okay? Rose gold.
That I consulted with because it freaked me out, and we decided it was, well, I decided after talking to her it was past tense, so probably not that dangerous, and we were really wrong. Maybe I should have called the police.
So Charlie Adelson lets you know that he's has friends in the criminal element, the Cuban criminal element, right?
Yes.
And you know that there's a heated dispute between this family. You testified to it today, a heated dispute.
Yes.
About relocation, about divorce.
Well, the dispute's no longer about relocation, but yes, there's an ongoing litigation for sure.
Right. And then Wendy Adelson tells you that this man, who is part of the criminal element, really looked into hiring a hitman.
She did say that.
And you thought, I'm not going to go to the police on that. That's your testimony, right?
That's the decision I made. It didn't really cross my mind because of the past tense nature of it. And I
look at the way Dan Rashbaum is on the podium. Are his feet touching the floor, or is he leapt up onto the podium and is holding himself up, hanging? He's so short.
I consulted with a friend, bounced it off of her before the murder, and neither one of us thought, oh, geez, let's call the police. So it's possible that Charlie is so dangerous that I should have called the police. Yeah, but I did not.
And so at this point in time, your relationship with Wendy Adelson was really bad, right?
It was hard to tell.
Hard to tell that it was really bad?
It was a roller coaster ride constantly because you referred to the next night, the next day, the 14th. On the 14th, I got a warm, inviting call from Wendy Adelson, eager to spend time with me. Maybe trying to distract me. I don't know. But
okay. Well, we're going to get to the distracting part.
Yeah.
Because that's what this is all about.
But it wasn't the relationship was not in a great spot.
Remember, guys, this is the first time in any of the 3 trials that any lawyer has treated Jeff in this way, disputing his account of events. In previous trials, we've had Katie's lawyers and Sigfredo's lawyer, and both were treating Jeff as a truthful witness. Everybody's just had the golden red carpet out for Jeff, but now Dan Rashbaum, can I talk? Jesus. Dan Rashbaum's here to ruffle some feathers, right?
I'll concede that to you.
So
yes.
your testimony is that when this woman is about to break up with you, when she is avoiding you, when you have just been caught going through her phone and her
How's she avoiding me?
Well,
Mr. Lacasse, you're not here to ask questions.
Yes, sir.
Please answer what's asked of you.
your testimony is that when you are on the outs with her, which the record will show you were during this time period, that she confides in you the most serious, the most important thing in her life. That's your testimony, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay.
She has a history of boarding out things that aren't in her own self-interest.
Judge, I would ask that to be stricken from the record. It's unresponsive.
This is just a part of the proffer, and if you've reached the end of your cross-examination on the proffer section, we do need to move on.
That's fine, Your Honor.
Mr. Lacasse, or actually Ms. Kappelman,
The court's ruling remains the same. You're not to inquire further as to this subject matter. We will revisit later if it comes to it.
Yes, sir.
Please bring back in the witnesses, or excuse me, the jurors. Okay.
Before you bring the jury back.
There is the celebration dinner. I'm sure that's the next one.
Yeah, that is another issue. So is it the same ruling in reference to the celebration dinner?
Well, one moment, because I don't know what the celebration dinner is all about.
It's in the same motion and eliminate, Judge.
bring it back up.
Who was that just said that? Lily Flores thinks that if Donna gets convicted, Charlie will turn on Wendy. Yeah, so do I. But, Wendy is fully prepared for that. She's got about 15 more steps to her plan that we haven't seen because they haven't happened yet, right? She's going to have the best lawyer that's been seen in this case. The only one that could hold a candle to Georgia Kappelman. Will they be better than Georgia Kappelman? That is a tall order. She is very good. She's Tallahassee born and bred. She lives and breathes Tallahassee juries. But it's going to be a showdown, right? A worthy adversary, at least. Put it that way. Wendy is fully prepped for Charlie turning on her. She's predicted that. She knows he's a petulant, spoiled child. Yeah, it's very interesting. There's so much more. In some ways, it feels like all of this is coming to an end, coming to a close. In other ways, we ain't seen nothing yet.
Number 2, I believe this just concerns statements. It doesn't say anything about assault.
All rise, jury entering the courtroom.
One moment.
Back up.
Where is the celebration dinner covered in your motion?
It's in the same motion and eliminate regarding.
I love how they all say celebration dinner like that's a real thing. Or divorce presents. Yes, the celebration dinner where we received our divorce present.
The hearsay statements, there were several of them. The first one was the statement that we just discussed, and the second one is that Charlie Adelson said that he went to dinner with it, that she told him that Charlie Adelson said it was a celebration dinner. It's in the same motion and eliminate.
However, this statement is being directly attributed to your client that was heard by the witness.
No,
Mr. Lacasse, please step down again.
the same exact issue. It's Wendy Adelson telling him what Charlie Adelson said.
Cappleman response.
Yes, sir. I asked Miss Adelson about the dinner. She acknowledged there was a dinner. She did vomit at the dinner table, but denied calling it a celebration dinner or.
Is that mentor lawyer in shop? What's he doing there?
Hearing Charlie Adelson call it a celebration dinner. I anticipate this witness would indicate that it was referred to as a celebration dinner.
Mr. Rauschbaum,
It's the same issue, and you ruled on this issue. It's the same motion in limine.
I'm looking at the line now. All right, Ms. Cappleman, I believe we find ourselves in the same position unless you have a argument which differentiates the television from the celebration dinner.
I think I understand what you mean, Judge. I don't have any additional argument other than this is offered for impeachment. It's not hearsay, not covered by the motion. The appropriate grounds were laid and it's admissible as impeachment.
Do you wish to proffer the celebration dinner by Mr. Lacasse as well?
No, sir. I think my preference at this point, assuming your ruling will be the same on the celebration dinner, is to have Mr. Lacasse step off the stand, proceed with another witness, and revisit this issue after the lunch break.
Very well. Please bring the jurors back in. You may end your examination in front of them, and then Mr. Rauschbaum will have his opportunity. Well, actually, Mr. Rauschbaum, how long do you believe your cross-examination of the witness will take
I'm a little
in
confused.
front of the jurors?
I'm a little confused. Are you?
The ruling is the impeachment as the celebration dinner is going to be excluded on the same grounds for now. If we need to revisit later, we will. But as to your cross-examination that will be taking place in front of the jurors on the subject matter that's already been covered, how long do you think that's going to take?
Oh, she's going to stop asking questions of this witness.
I believe she just indicated she would.
Okay. For the issues that we've dealt with just now,
Prior to any proffers and sending the jurors
yeah,
out.
I'm not really sure, Your Honor. Probably maybe 30 minutes.
Right, let's bring them back in. You can start your cross. We'll take the lunch break and then pick up from there. Please bring in the witness.
All rise. You're entering the courtroom.
Okay, just before we start the cross, if anyone would like to support the channel, there's a link to buymeacoffee.com in the description for the video, and also memberships, Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee, YouTube memberships, fantastic links in the description for the video, and super chat, super like, super thanks, super sticker. Don't forget to leave a like on the video, guys. Leave a like on the video. Thank you.
Everyone can be seated. Bailiff, if you can please instruct Mr. Lacasse to come back in.
Hey, welcome back, Neverly darling. He thinks he's so distinguished, doesn't he, with that glue-on beard. you know, with that badly glued on fake beard of his. I'd love to see what kind of restaurant he has lunch in and how he orders and treats the wait staff. Yes, I'll have the goat's cheese omelet with roasted red pepper. What would he have?
Does the state have any further direct examination for this witness?
No further questions at this time.
You may cross-examine.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, I will have the pan-seared ahi with sesame tempura string beans.
Professor Lacasse, good morning.
Good morning.
You met Charlie Adelson one time, right?
That's correct.
It was a trip that you and Wendy.
Oh, he doesn't eat during trial, Rabbit. You know what he does? I think I bet what he does is he has. Have you ever seen that astronaut food where you can get anything? You know, you can get a Neapolitan ice cream in a bag, in a dry bag, or you can have a whole roast beef dinner in a dry bag. He's just sitting in his hotel with these foil packets going, yes, what if for lunch? For lunch we will have yeah.
Took down to South Florida for a day after a spring break with the kids that she taught.
Yeah, we were in Immokalee, and then we went over to Miami, or to Fort Lauderdale and Miami just for the 11th. That's right.
And you had dinner, you said you had dinner on March 11th of 2014 at a place called Yardbird.
That's correct.
You recall Charlie was in his scrubs?
Don't recall that, but it wouldn't surprise me.
And Catherine McBanawa was at that dinner, right?
She was.
And I think you said that she was bringing up stuff about her ex, right?
Not a lot, just a little bit, but she did bring that up, and I recalled it.
Is it fair to say that she was pushing for information at that dinner?
From who?
From Miss Adelson?
I don't recall that.
Well, was she trying to get Miss Adelson to talk about her ex-husband?
I don't recall that.
Do you recall there being a lot of discussion at the dinner about Professor Markel?
Don't recall a lot. It always.
Hey, thanks so much, Carrie, who just bought us 5 coffees on buymeacoffee.com. So much appreciated, Carrie. Thank you.
This came up for a minute. It came up in the context of Wendy Adelson's book. Most of it was Charlie talking.
You recall Katie asking questions about how the divorce was going, how he was treating her, where he was. You don't recall any of that happening at the dinner?
I do not recall any of that.
The only thing you recall is her saying something about her ex-husband.
That's what stuck out. We've had previous legal proceedings where I also could not, I can't. It's a dinner 9 years ago. I don't remember a lot of detail of it. And it wasn't long either. It was just an hour.
Isn't it likely that she was talking about her ex-husband and her problems? Because
an hour dinner at Yardbird sounds really quick to me. It's not a super fancy place, but I think it's kind of flashy. It's in South Beach, for God's sake, not Tallahassee. Maybe we should check out the menu at Yardbird. I checked out the menu at Uvia. If they showed you how much it costs, probably no one would go. But a 1 hour appointment for dinner with 4 people, 2 couples at Yardbird. What did they just have starters or what? That seems really quick. 2 hours would be more like it, don't you think?
there was talk about exes.
I mean, that's pure speculation on my part. I don't recall. I do recall some other things we spoke about, but I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about them or not. They involved your client. They weren't. So I'm in my head trying to figure out how much space was there for other stuff. As I previously testified, most of it was Charlie telling us stories, kind of.
But Katie was clearly wanting to bring up the topic, as you said, about her family situation, correct?
Yeah, but I'm talking about 2 or 3 sentences here. I only recalled that in retrospect because there was a murder, and I thought, oh, geez.
And it was important enough for Ms. Kappelman to ask you about that, right?
Okay, yeah.
Right. So you remember.
But don't forget, guys, that Rashbaum's contention is that Katie Megbanawa had heard Charlie tell the joke about the TV. Hey, I was going to get her a hitman, but the TV was cheaper, so I got her this TV for a divorce present. And yeah, she heard that a bunch of times because he was telling it all over the place. And then she also heard about the $1 million offer, of which Charlie was going to pay a third. So she had those 2 things in her mind and then set into motion a plan to relay this back to the Latin Kings, who would travel up to Tallahassee twice, at least twice, and murder Professor Markel on spec so that they could come back down to Miami and say, we just murdered your brother-in-law and we'll do the same to you if you don't pay up. That's the best you could come up with? You were in jail for 1.5 years. You put $5 million into your defense, and that was your line? And you're surprised that that didn't work? And now your little weasel lawyer over here with his fake glued-on beard is trying to make it like Katie's sat at Yardbird going, yes, I'll gather information. I'll push the conversation about exes. My ex is a criminal, and your ex is a legal madman. Mean Markel, that's what they call him on campus. Mean Markel.
Her talking about her family situation. Right?
Yeah, and I also remember Charlie talking about a party he'd recently attended. There's a few other random things.
Fair enough. I didn't ask, with all due respect, I didn't ask you that.
Okay.
Let's just stick with the family situation.
Okay.
So Catherine McBanawa was talking about her family situation, correct?
For 2 or 3 sentences, she mentioned that Sigfredo Garcia, not by name, and the tensions with him. Yes.
Okay. You see,
Rabbit, that sounds rough. I mean, no, is there anything worse than tough, stringy chicken? It's all in the cooking. You got to keep it moist, especially the white meat.
that Charlie talked in the hot tub or the pool about having connections to the criminal element. That's what your testimony was, right?
Yes.
Criminal element, yeah. Cuban criminal element. Thanks so much, Lego person, for the super chat. Lego person says that they've listened to all the wires, never heard Charlie make a single joke. Yeah. I don't think he has made a joke on the wires, has he? But I can totally imagine him telling, roll your eyes racism jokes like how many Kims does it take to screw in a light bulb at the Korean wedding he went to, right? And that's why he got punched out. I can totally see him telling Mexican jokes, gay jokes, anything that's offensive in kind of a juvenile way.
Starting with my initial statement to TPD, yes, sir.
And you're talking about your statement to TPD after the murder, right?
3 days after the murder.
And after you thought Wendy Adelson was trying to frame you for the murder, right?
I didn't think that in that interview.
Okay.
It took me some time to process.
you're aware that you were called in as a suspect for the murder, right?
Yes.
Okay. And after that point in time is when you gave that statement to TPD regarding what Mr. Adelson said. Just yes or no?
After I was called into the police station?
Yes.
Yeah, that's when I gave my statement at the police station.
Right. What I'm making clear is it's not like you had dinner and were in a hot tub with Charlie Adelson and you went back to Tallahassee and gave the statement then, right?
No, I would have no reason to do that.
I understand that, Professor Lacasse. I'm just trying to make it clear for
Yeah.
the jury when you gave TPD this statement.
Yeah.
And the answer is you gave him the statement after the murder and after you were called in as a suspect on that murder.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, do you recall texting Charlie Adelson after you met with him?
I texted Mr. Adelson one time, yes.
Okay. And do you recall saying to him, "Hey, Charlie, it's Jeff," as in Wendy and Jeff. "Hey, man, thanks for your hospitality the other night. Sorry about the clusterfuck with the cab. It was great to finally meet you. I can tell how proud you are of your sister. I am too. She's really one in a million. Take care, dude, and look forward to seeing you again sometime soon." Do you recall texting him that?
I do recall texting him that.
Okay. You like hanging out with the criminal element?
It was my new girlfriend's brother who she was very close with. I've been dating Wendy seriously for 12 days. I didn't think it was right to give I was polite rather than honest. Let's put it that way. I mean,
Let me ask the question again.
yeah.
Do you like hanging out with the criminal element?
No, I don't do that.
Did Charlie Adelson text you or did you text him?
I texted him. I can't remember if that was solicited by Wendy Adelson or not, but I texted him.
It wasn't solicited by Charlie Adelson, right?
No, we never spoke again, though.
Actually, he texted you back
Right, I never answered.
and he said, "It was great seeing you. I'm glad you made your flight. Hopefully we can all hang out soon."
Mhm.
Now, you testified that Wendy was a wreck. Hold on one second, sorry. One moment, Your Honor. I've lost my place. You testified about some of these divorce filings on direct, correct?
Yes.
And that Wendy, you testified that Wendy was a wreck about him, right?
Yes.
That's not what you thought in the spring of 2014, though, was it?
You're questioning whether it is what I thought in spring of 2014. I noticed repeatedly her reacting to motions and litigation and getting very, very upset. I'm not saying there was never any good times, but she was very upset when he filed something.
Do you recall sending an email to Wendy Adelson in March 27th of 2014 where you tell her that she's adapting really well to unpleasant circumstances and that she needs to give herself more credit?
That sounds familiar. I would say it got increasingly worse March, April, May, June in terms of reactions to the entire situation. But I know I was sending that email. Yes, trying to encourage my girlfriend at the time. Yes.
Oh, really? It got worse. Filings in March, April, and June.
No, I don't know when the last filing was. Her reaction.
Let's think about what Jeff learned about Charlie on this one trip where he spent a total of about 4 hours with him by his admission that he takes sex tourism trips to countries in South America to have sex with underage prostitutes. Point one. Bullet point one. He anally violated a girlfriend of his consensually, but as a punishment, bragging about how he made it hurt and so on. Point two. Friends on both sides of the tracks, pathologically angry, incensed and enraged by Professor Markel. I mean, what is he supposed to text Charlie? I disapprove of your lifestyle. How do you think that would have gone? He just sent a polite text to keep the peace and be polite. It's normal.
Actions, not just to filings, but the entire situation. Let me clarify that. So.
Hold on a second. Would it surprise you that there weren't any filings
No, I'm
in
aware,
May or June?
no, I'm aware of that.
Would it surprise you that there's been testimony in this courtroom that actually things got a little better?
Wendy staff.
Look at Smug Boy over there. Smugsy Smugson. Look at him. Yeah, Rashbaum's got him now. He's on the ropes. He's got him on the ropes. Sweaty, puffy Jeff is on the ropes.
Status didn't get better. My observations of Wendy saw her spiraling downward in that time period is what I was trying to refer to.
Do you recall that in the spring, summer of 2014, Professor Markel asked Wendy's parents to babysit for him?
I didn't know about that, or I don't recall it if I did.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah, it didn't happen, Rashbaum. That's why we have never heard about that in any of the two trials where we heard everything. We heard nothing about banana bread or babysitting or banana bread babysitting, okay? Didn't happen.
Now, do you recall telling law enforcement that your impression was that Professor Markel's filing was going to fail?
Yes, I was repeating things I'd heard from Wendy Adelson. So most of that content, that was, I mean.
Sir, I'm just asking you for yes or no questions.
Okay.
Let me follow up of where you get that information from.
Okay. Okay.
I know you have an agenda.
Yes, I told police that. Yes.
Okay. So you told the police that Wendy wasn't concerned about Professor Markel succeeding with that motion.
No, she was highly anxious.
Yeah, Amy, Charlie thinks Rashbaum is like really on his game. This is what you get, Jeff. This is what you get. We've got a $5 million defense, Jeff. What are you going to do now, Jeff? Run, Jeff.
She was highly anxious.
The fact that he thought this was going well, I mean, that just has such a detachment from reality. You know, Dan Rashbaum's there on the defense table writing something down, writing a secret thing down like it's some important information that he had that he's going to show to Charlie, like under the radar, and then hands him the note, and it just says, "We will win." Yeah. Dan Rashbaum, he said I was a genius. He said I did great on the stand. He gave me a 95. He gave me a 95, and I did great. And I was so likable, and I was so personable. Oh, you don't know how to see yourself, man.
Did she think that the motion was going to be granted?
I don't think she knew. I think that's what caused the anxiety.
Didn't you tell law enforcement that your impression was that Professor Markel's motion was going to fail?
I did tell law enforcement that, yes.
And didn't you just tell the jury that that impression came from Wendy Adelson?
Well, from my interactions with her and partially my own opinion, to clarify. But yes, that's true. Yeah. Yeah.
You also told law enforcement that everyone in the legal community agreed with that assessment.
I didn't speak to everyone in the legal community.
Well, let's read your interview then. And let's see if it refreshes your recollection.
Hey, Bob from accounting. the whole point of my cousin Vinny is that he smashed it in the end. Why? Because he's a relentless Italian, wrong'un that doesn't play by the rules. He makes the rules, but he won, didn't he? Because he smashed it.
One moment, Your Honor.
I mean, it did take him a while to warm up.
Being summoned.
You don't recall being recorded where you said, and I quote, everyone in the legal community agreed with that assessment at 2 o'clock on 7/23/14, interview part 1 at 34:35 in the interview. You don't recall saying that?
Can you give me the date in the interview again, please?
7/23/2014, interview part 1, and 3/6/2015. You reiterated it at 34 minutes and 35 seconds into the recording. You don't recall saying that?
Vaguely, I do recall saying something like that. I'm a non-lawyer trying to figure out this situation. Getting different messages from different people.
I have no further questions right now, Your Honor.
You redirect examination.
At the time you were in the hot tub with the defendant, did you know that he was a criminal element? Okay, let me rephrase it. Did you know he was conspiring to commit the murder of Dan Markel?
I had no idea.
All right, and when you were at dinner with he and Catherine Magbanua, did you know that she was conspiring to commit the murder of Dan Markel?
Had no idea.
So you didn't know when you were in the hot tub that you were hanging out with a criminal element in that regard?
No.
Nothing further.
Because you may step down, you may be recalled at some point. Members of the jury, we're going to take our lunch break at this point. Once again, I'm going to remind you not to discuss the case with each other or anyone else. Do not look at any news coverage or discuss the matter with any friends or family. Enjoy your lunch break. We will get started once again at 1:15. Please report back by 1:10.
State calls Wendy Adelson.
Okay, now Wendy's going to come back in to settle this motion in limine stuff, and then Jeff's going to come back in after that. So I guess we'll just handle those two segments and then wrap it up. What's the bet? And she's got a rose gold MacBook Air in that bag right now. You know it's true.
Adelson, you remain under oath. You may be seated.
Ms. Adelson, we've got 2 points we need clarification on from you. When we talked about your relationship with Jeffrey Lacasse, we talked about a occasion on July 13th, 2014. It would have been the Sunday before the murder. And on that occasion, did you at your residence that evening, in the context of discussing the relocation issue with involving you and your children moving to South Florida, did you say that Charlie, your brother, this defendant, had explored all options to resolve the problem, including hiring a hitman, and it would cost either $15,000 or $50,000?
No,
And did you have a conversation with Jeffrey Lacasse at your residence that night where you said you wanted to share something in confidence with him?
no,
Did you ever say that your brother had seriously hired a hitman where you weren't repeating the joke? You
No.
were serious. All right. And second point for clarification involves that dinner where you got sick at the dinner table. You recall which evening I'm speaking of?
I do.
This would have been about 2 weeks to a month after the homicide, I believe. Okay. And on that occasion, did you ever tell Jeffrey Lacasse that Charlie had referred to the dinner as a celebration dinner?
No,
Did you ever tell Jeffrey Lacasse that it was a celebration dinner?
no,
No further questions.
So by Wendy's statements here, Jeff has made all that up, right? He's just said those things are true. And now Wendy's saying, no, didn't happen. Crazy Jeff, jealous Jeff. So what's Jeff's motive? Well, he suspects that we framed him, and now this is his revenge. And the fact that he looks like a perfectly credible, honest witness, well, that's just what he would want you to think. I mean, it's about as ridiculous as Charlie's entire defense, this thing about, yeah, I never said that. Well, you're the one with something to hide. You're the one that probably, maybe, possibly was involved in this plot. I mean, I say definitely, but as far as the jury are concerned, she's in the firing line of accusation, right? So when you have two liars and one of them has something to gain and one of them has nothing to gain, where do you usually put your bets?
Cross-examine.
Very briefly. Good afternoon. During your interrogation, do you recall Jeffrey Lacasse's name coming up?
yes,
And do you recall that it was Jane McPherson who brought up his name, not you?
yes, correct.
And do you recall, as a result of...
Oh, I didn't even think about Jeff. I hope to God not. Is Jeff this much of a lunatic? I didn't even think about Jeff. It's a good job you're here, Jane. It's a good job you were fully prepped, Jane.
of his name being brought up?
You've just cracked the case, Jane. It was Jeff. Or Amy's husband. Or Amy's husband and Jeff working together side by side to take revenge on Professor Markel.
He was considered a suspect.
Yes,
And you recall that Detective Isom asked you a lot of questions about him.
yes,
And he asked you about his car.
yes,
And he asked you about his travel schedule.
yes,
And he asked you for his information so that he could speak with him, correct?
correct.
But you didn't bring up his name, right?
No,
You didn't try to frame Jeffrey Lacasse for any murder, right?
absolutely not.
In fact, Jane McPherson was the one who brought up his name, correct?
She was.
I have no further question.
Please approach.
When are we going to have Jane McPherson in the witness box? I'd love to see her again. I hope she doesn't laugh. I've been thinking about cutting together all of her horrible laughter from the interview because there's a lot of it. But I don't know if anyone wants to see that. It's pretty horrific. But I guess she'll be very relevant in Wendy's trial, right? Whenever that is. Soon, I think. Well, there will be an arrest soon. I mean, after Donna's done, are they going to wait? Are they going to wait any longer? I don't think so. I think they'd have her in already if Donna didn't have a pending trial and they want Wendy to testify in that trial with this same immunity deal, use and derivative use immunity. She's not going to do that if she's in cuffs, is she? To be honest, I hope she's arrested directly after she gets up from the witness box in Donna's trial. Yeah. Pat Sanford's there with the car. No, General Ison. They'll give the honor to him. Oh, that'd be sweet, wouldn't it? They deputize him for a day to do one more arrest, and it's Wendy Adelson.
Come up while you were in the interview room being interviewed in reference to the shooting, right?
Jane McPherson brought him up.
She was in the room with you during the interview.
For some of it, not for the whole time.
Okay, but during the part where Jeffrey Lacasse's name came up, she was in the interview room with you.
Yes, she brought him up.
And this is the same interview that we've referenced previously where you were taken from the restaurant to be told about what happened with Dan.
Yes.
Nothing further.
You may step down, ma'am. Will Miss Adelson be recalled by either the state or the defense again?
Certainly hope not, Your Honor.
You remain under subpoena. Please call your next witness.
Jeffrey Lacasse.
I'm kind of surprised that Georgia said that on the record. That was a bit catty, wasn't it? I mean, good, but a bit catty for a court of law. I certainly hope not, Your Honor, because I've had enough of listening to her bullshit. Leah, is banana bread kosher? Well, it can be if it's prepared in a kosher kitchen, because people that keep strictly kosher have different plates, mixing bowls. So if you use a mixing bowl to bake a cake with eggs and milk, you wouldn't use the same mixing bowl to make meatballs. You know, it doesn't touch the same bowl. And kosher's Donna's kitchen was obviously not kosher, so if she did make the banana bread, it would have been prepared in a non-kosher kitchen. So even though the end product of banana bread could be kosher, it wouldn't have been in this case, and Dan probably wouldn't have eaten it.
Mr. Lacasse, you remain under oath. You may be seated.
All right, Mr. Lacasse, I want to take you back to July 13th, 2014. This is going to be the Sunday before the homicide that we're here about. Did you see Wendy Adelson that evening at her residence here in Tallahassee?
Yes, after we returned from dinner and a movie, we went back to her residence. Yes, ma'am.
All right. And at some point that evening, did the issue of the relocation battle that was going on back in the summer of 2013 come up?
It did.
And is that the issue we've already touched on, which has to do with her wanting to move to South Florida with the children and filing a petition to do so in the courts?
That's right. And by extension, the issue of being stuck in Tallahassee.
Okay. And while discussing that issue, did Ms. Adelson make some statements to you about her brother Charlie?
She did.
And what were those statements?
She asked told me that Charlie had investigated all possible options to take care of the problem of Danny Markel, including hiring a hitman, which would cost about $15,000. And I later revised that and thought maybe it was $50,000, but the dollar amount was the only thing in question. She definitely said that Charles Adelson had looked into hiring a hitman to kill Danny Markel.
And when did she say Mr. Adelson had looked into hiring a hitman?
When the relocation was denied the previous summer.
Okay. All right. And the dollar amount, so she either said 15 or 50, you're not sure which?
That's correct.
Okay. And when she said this, what was her demeanor like?
She was very serious.
All right. So definitely not the to be confused with the TV joke.
No, I'd heard that joke repeatedly. I knew that joke. This was something very different.
I still can't get my head around why this joke was repeated so much. Yeah. She got divorced and I looked into hiring a hitman, but the TV was cheaper, so I got her the TV. It couldn't be less funny. It's obvious, it's juvenile, it's pathetic. Why would you repeat that to everybody you see, to the point where other witness, Katie's like, yeah, I heard it a bunch of times. Jeff's like, yeah, I heard it repeatedly. What is this? It's just weird. But doesn't Jeff just come across brilliantly on the stand? I mean, there's not one flake of doubt I feel about anything he says, right? It's completely sincere. Anyone looking at him is like, well, this guy's obviously on the level. He's telling me the exact truth, how it happened.
This was chilling, a little scary.
He doesn't have an agenda.
Made my stomach flip. I found it disturbing. The joke was said in a lighthearted manner, and this was not said in that way. This was serious and said confidentially.
All right. Thank you. And I want to, well.
No, Leah, Wendy wasn't watching Jeff on the stand because she's also a witness. So she's currently still under subpoena, so she can't be allowed to watch Jeff on the stand.
Okay, I think we should go from there to the next day, which is going to be July 14th, 2014, the Monday before the murder.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you see Wendy Adelson on that day?
Yeah, I can't remember if I contacted her, if she contacted me, but she was excited to see me. And I wasn't so sure about that because the night before we'd had an awkward conversation at the conclusion of that night. And I had told her that she didn't want to do this anymore, that she could just send me a text.
Man, doesn't their relationship just sound like a bunch of awkward conversations, or her moaning about the divorce and the relocation? I haven't heard one instance recalling of where either of them said, we did this really great thing. We had this great bonding occasion where we did this great thing. You know, it was just like, yeah, we had an awkward conversation and then a fight in Immokalee. And then we went to alternative spring break and met her psycho brother, her no empathy brother, her smug millionaire, racist brother, sex offending murderer. Yeah, that was a good night. Oh man. But you know what I mean? It's like if you're telling something about a relationship that ended badly, there's usually a point in time where you can go, yeah, there was this great time when we did this great thing, this wonderful thing, bonding thing, and we had a great time. But all I've heard is awkward conversation, moaning about the marriage, and then weird love bombing stuff like she throws me the world. She says the kids should call you daddy, which he says was totally disingenuous and just awkward. Oh, and then, throw in a bunch of stuff about other men. Yeah, I got the feeling that I was boyfriend number 2, blah, 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 blah. She wouldn't, blah. And then we all sat down to watch a family movie on a broken TV, even though there was a perfectly good one in the house, and the kids were whining and screaming and crying and moaning. Great. What a relationship.
Text, and I wouldn't, take any offense. We would just, break up. So I didn't get that text. Instead, I talked to Wendy Adelson, and she was excited to see me.
All right. So what did you do?
Well, then she needed to call me back, and it went from her enthusiasm about seeing me to let's just meet at yoga tonight, go in separate cars. So there was a real
Just a thought on it, though. I mean, as instrumental as Jeff has been in this case, and knowing, all right, they've shown to be pretty stupid in the quote unquote execution of the plan, no pun intended. But they do have money, they do have reach, they are devoid of empathy, they don't play by the rules. I mean, he would have grounds to be looking over his shoulder, I think. I mean, I guess it would be pretty obvious if the lead witness in the case got shot or killed somehow. But if they were to learn from their terrible mistakes about the last murder they did, they might be able to get this one right. A lot of murders happen that are never traced back. And just because Jeff is a witness in this murder trial, if he got murdered, it wouldn't necessarily mean that the murders from this case murdered him. Someone else could murder Jeff, right? I mean, be another one of those coincidences, right, Charlie? But it could happen.
shift in about 30 minutes.
Did you go to yoga?
We did. We went to yoga.
All right. And after yoga, was there a discussion about your relationship and the status of your relationship?
Yeah, a very brief one. I mean, yoga is not a great place to talk, obviously. So while we were sitting there, she seemed very cold, and I kind of got the feeling that it was over, that this was it. So as we walked,
man, there's nowhere like a yoga class to give someone vibes. You know, you're breathing in and out, relaxing into child's pose, and you're giving off this energy of tension. I mean, that's just completely, you know what I mean?
to the car, I tried to talk to her about the relationship, and that didn't go well. And so I just kind of put up my hands and walked away, feeling sad that this was it.
All right. And as you walked away, was that the end, or was there more conversation after you began to walk away?
She called out to me, and I walked back towards her. And she was deeply curious. Well, let me back up slightly. During that conversation, she didn't have any.
Yeah, Soap's been snoring. Sorry, guys. She's moved now. How you doing, Soap? You want to say hello to your public?
Interest in spending any time with me for the rest of the week. So it kind of confirmed, like, this is over.
Mm-hmm.
But then when she called me back, she had a series of detailed questions about what I would be doing on Friday.
And Friday is going to be July 18th, right?
Yes,
And that's the date of the homicide.
that's exactly right.
What were her inquiries of you regarding that date?
I had a trip planned to Tennessee. She was aware that I was planning to leave about 11 a.m. On Friday. I need to get to Atlanta for an early dinner, so with traffic, she knew I was departing at 11. And at the yoga studio in the parking lot, she had asked if I was still going. If I didn't go, why not? What route I would be taking. A lot of a bizarre amount of interest in that trip that didn't make sense to me at the time, given that she didn't want to spend time with me.
And how does it make sense to you now?
Well, if I had left on my trip at the scheduled time that
You see, this is one of Wendy's weaker points in the whole thing, right? How do you explain that away? How do you explain your acute interest in Jeff's movements at exactly the date and time and location of the hit? Has she actually denied that this happened? I can't remember if she's been asked in any of the 3 trials. Has she? I think she has denied it, right? Again, another denial, Wendy. Not looking good, Wendy.
that she had known about for quite a while. I would have driven pretty close to Danny Markel's house about the same time as at the murder, in a similar looking car to the suspect vehicle.
What type of vehicle did you drive?
I drove a 2004 Nissan Sentra that was silver metallic gray color.
Another weak point for Wendy, because Charlie never saw Jeff's car. Originally, I thought that I was trying to find an answer to why Jeff was introduced to Charlie at all, because it didn't serve any purpose. I couldn't find any purpose, and I thought maybe it was so that there could be an excuse of Charlie getting a look at Jeff's car, so it would make sense for him to tell the hitman to get a similar car to set it up. But they flew, right? The text Jeff sent to Charlie after the meeting, when they spent the night at his house, said that they were going to the airport, which would make sense because not everyone is a moron who needs to drive all the way from Miami to Tallahassee when there's a plane that takes 2 hours less. Yeah, so the only connection between Jeff's car and the knowledge the hitman had to hire a similar looking car, the only way that information travels, Wendy is a core component to that. Charlie doesn't know. Okay, shit. Maybe Donna knows, actually, because he said that they came to Tallahassee. So if he met up with them, maybe they knew about the make and model of his car, without Wendy necessarily having to be the one to pass that information. Okay, that could be. That could be.
So if you had followed your original plans, you would have been passing by the Markel residence or nearby there around the same time as the killers were fleeing?
Yeah, I would have been at Capitol Circle in Thomasville. Sure, I would have been on the same cell tower, for example. I think my life could have been pretty complicated had I taken my original plans.
All right, so you didn't, I guess, take the original plans.
No, I did not. I had made a last minute decision the night before to leave Thursday night instead. I had not informed Ms. Adelson about that because we weren't speaking. Actually, no, I don't know that anyone, for sure that anyone in Tallahassee knew I had changed my plans, just the people at the other end.
All right, so you were actually in Tennessee at the time of the homicide.
I was.
And when we've heard you were called in as a potential suspect, and apparently named by a Jane McPherson. Do you know who that is?
I do.
Okay, who is that?
That was a friend of Wendy Adelson's, and she was a doctoral student in our program. I had not much of a relationship with her, just a kind of a working relationship. We'd work.
But by the way, here's a Nissan Sentra, and here's a Prius. I don't think they look similar at all, especially the back. Prius, okay, maybe this is an earlier model, but Prius has a really distinctive shape, and it does not really look like a Nissan Sentra. So I don't know that I would confuse those two cars ever. Maybe the front looks a little similar, but not the back and not the profile.
Worked on a couple of projects together, but I didn't know her very well at all.
But someone that knew that you had been dating Wendy.
Yeah, I think she was a confidant of Wendy Adelson's. Yes, for sure.
Okay. So you get called in, and were you able to provide documentation to show that you were in Tennessee and not in Tallahassee?
Yeah, I was excluded fairly quickly because the investigators found Kmart surveillance footage of me at a Kmart in Tennessee using my credit card and my cell phone, showing me there shortly after.
Oh, you were in Tallahassee as well, Amy? I thought you were just in Miami. Okay.
The murder, so it was impossible that I was the shooter.
All right. And then was there also some similar type coincidences around the time of the trip that the killers made in June?
Yes. On June 6th, I had a business trip to Gainesville, and I departed at 11 a.m. on a Friday, June 6th, which Miss Adelson would have known about by March. So really, I take 2 trips out of Tallahassee in my car the whole spring and summer semester. And both times, hitmen try to kill Danny Markel.
Okay. Any further contact with Wendy after the...
That's another big one, isn't it? You only go out of town twice in the whole spring and summer. And on both of those occasions, you're leaving on a Friday at 11 a.m., driving up Thomasville, which is next to Trescott. And on both occasions, hitmen were there to kill Professor Markel. It's a coincidence.
The yoga date?
We, about 10 days after the murder, she reached out to a mutual friend, and we had a few phone calls.
And during one of those phone calls, did you learn about a dinner where Wendy had become ill at the table?
Yes, I did learn about that.
And what did you learn about that dinner?
That she went out to dinner with Charlie for what he called a celebration dinner. He said something to her. She spontaneously vomited on the table.
And this would have been...
Oh, we've got such a good video coming up about this guy. What made Wendy vomit at the table? I think I've cracked it. Video coming up real soon. Subscribe to the channel, like, share, leave a comment, and support the channel. Thank you so much, Mary Bartlett, for the super sticker. There's also buy me a coffee link in the description. There's a link to buymeacoffee.com in the description for the video, and Patreon memberships, guys. All memberships, whatever.
And within how much time after the homicide?
Within a few weeks.
Was it specified that the celebration was in reference to Dan Markel's death as opposed to anything else?
Wasn't specified.
Okay. But whatever it was, that's the dinner where she vomited.
That's right. That's right.
One moment, please. No further questions.
Cross-examination.
How you doing? No shenanigans. Good to see you. Oh, here we go. We need a bell for... Did you call the police? You were afraid of my client? I'm sure you were. I'm sure you were. Did you call the police? Oh, I hate him, but I love that I hate him.
Shift gears a teeny bit.
Okay.
Shift gears a teeny bit. Shift those gears. Shift those gears to the puzzle pieces.
When you and Miss Adelson were dating, there were occasions when she would drive, right?
Yes.
Did she have a good sense of direction?
I don't know.
You're aware that when she was married to, she lived in Professor Markel, she lived on the house on Trescott, right?
Yes.
And when you were dating Wendy, would she often use Trescott as a shortcut to get from one place to another?
She used it a few times when I was in the car, if that's what you're asking. She did that on June 27th, the day we departed to Gainesville at 11 a.m. on a Friday.
I think you said in one of your interviews that she would do that at least 100 times, drive by the house.
That was a figure of speech.
Now, you mentioned, we'll start with the joke, the bad joke.
Yes.
You mentioned this TV joke, how it was lighthearted, bad humor, certainly in the context of what happened, but it was a joke.
Yeah, it was dark humor, I would say, but it was clearly a joke. Yes.
And do you recall that joke being given at that Yardbird dinner?
I don't.
Could it have been given at that Yardbird dinner?
It could have, but I don't recall it. And I actually think I might remember that.
I'm sure you do.
Given what happened.
I think one thing that has been established is you believe that Wendy Adelson tried to frame you for Professor Markel's murder, right?
I'm suspicious that there was an effort made in that way, yes.
And so that has affected your viewpoint, correct?
Sure.
Well, let's talk about your viewpoint. And we have to go a little bit back and repeat a couple things to put it in context. So you meet with Charlie Adelson. He tells you that he's he's friends with people in the criminal element. You say, thanks for a great meeting, correct? Send him a nice text.
The next day I sent him a text, yes.
You don't go to the police.
No, I don't go to the police.
Okay. You then hear that Charlie's made a joke many times about this TV being cheaper than hiring a hitman.
Heard the joke twice.
Okay. You don't go to the police.
No.
Then in June, at a time when Wendy Adelson is breaking up with you, she sits you down and she says, I have to confide the biggest secret in my life. That a year ago, my brother actually looked into hiring a hitman. That's your testimony here today, right?
You said in June, sir?
In June? I'm sorry, in July.
Okay.
In July.
Can you restate that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll do it again.
I'm sorry.
I'll try to keep it lower this time. In July of 2014,
Yes.
about a week before the murder, when you're breaking up with Wendy Adelson, or things are seriously not good, she sits you down and she says, Jeffrey, I've got to confide in you. My brother actually looked into hiring a hitman. That's your testimony here today.
No, she didn't sit me down. She said it in passing, and she had a habit of blurting out things that weren't in her own self-interest. But she did do that. She did make that statement. Yes, sir.
And it was chilling to you.
It was.
Unlike the joke, you thought it was real.
It was real, yes.
Did you go to the police?
I did not.
and then you break up.
Kind of.
He thinks he's Saul Goodman, isn't he? I swear he's picked up some of his physical theater movements from Better Call Saul. And this whole thing about stating things like they're preposterous and ludicrous, it's so transparent, this guy. He's a very bad lawyer. Roberta Glass calls him a fine run-of-the-mill lawyer. I think he's very bad. Look at mentor lawyer back there going, this never works. This isn't working. And the way he darts his eyes over to the jury is ridiculous.
She strung me along for another week, as you know. Mostly, yeah, but kind of.
Well, the murder happens and you get called in as a suspect of the murder.
Right.
And you're upset at that point.
Yes, I was upset.
And you have a first interview with the police, and then you have a second interview with the police.
Yes.
And during the second interview with the police, you talked solely about Wendy Adelson.
Yeah, I think that's right. I felt like I needed to say they needed to look at Wendy Adelson as well. That was the point of that talk. Yes, sir.
That was the point of that talk.
Yes.
And you even, you don't mention actually Charlie Adelson at all in that second
I
interview.
already had done so. So yes, you're correct.
So that second interview, you talked just about Wendy Adelson. And in fact, you're so uncomfortable in the interview. You tell the police that. You say, I'm so uncomfortable. And Detective Isom asked you why. Do you recall that?
It wasn't a Detective Isom.
Okay, I'm sorry. The detective who was interviewing you asked you why.
I don't, you have to remind me on that.
Well, let me remind you what you said. You said, because it's hard for me, because if she would take me back right now, I would go back to her.
Yeah, I was still under her spell to some degree.
I'd love it if when Jeff just said, it wasn't Detective Isom. The next line out of his mouth was, it was General Isom.
I would say I was fairly pathetic at that point. I would acknowledge that. Yeah.
So let me understand this, because I want to make sure I've got it right. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Sure.
Wendy Adelson has told you that her brother looked into hiring a hitman sometime in 2013. He gets murdered.
He does.
You go to an interview, and during that interview, you're still thinking about staying with Wendy Adelson. You don't want to talk badly about her because you still want to be with her.
You're talking about this July 23rd interview specifically?
Yes.
Yeah, it only been a week. It was still pretty fresh. I was still pretty mixed up. That's right.
Okay, well, let's see how mixed up you were after that. So then you're clearly broken up at that point. We can agree, right?
Actually, I would say yes, functionally, but I've testified before that Ms. Adelson and I had conversations in August where she behaved as if we were still together, and we had a conversation that finally ended it, initiated by me. Now, practically, we were broken up.
You never dated. You never went on a date with her again, right?
I never saw her again other than our courtroom, right?
Fair enough. Fair enough. Then she tells you, according to you, that my client, Charlie Adelson, says that she had a celebration dinner with Charlie, and that the celebration dinner was about the murder of Professor Markel.
I don't recall saying that last part.
But that's how you took it, right?
I worried that was the case. I told the police, and my understanding is Wendy conceded she threw up on her dinner table.
Do you know that the first time you told the police that was in March of 2015?
I do know that.
So what happened in September of 14? What happened in October of 14? What happened in November of 14? What happened in December of 14, January of 15, February of 15? You still didn't think that was important to tell the police?
I'm happy to answer that. I think you deserve an explanation on that. You may have noticed in my March 6, 2015 interview, I come in with notes, big pile of notes. those notes are written in July of August. They're written pretty quick after the murder. I didn't come in right away, partially because I was scared of your client. I was scared of the repercussions if I went on the record further about my suspicion. So I was reluctant to come back in because I was frankly scared.
Oh, I get it. You were scared of him in August of 14, but you weren't scared of him in March of 2015.
Now I decided to man up. I decided it was a homicide and needed to man up. That's the decision I came
Right.
to.
You weren't scared to tell him that my client had actually looked into a hitman a year earlier. That didn't scare you. You could tell him that in July.
No, I was.
Hold on, sir. Let me ask the question.
Fair enough.
In July of 2014, you told police that Charlie Adelson, you heard, actually looked at hiring a hitman. You weren't scared to tell them that.
I asked for police protection. I was scared.
You told them that in July of 2014. Isn't that correct?
Yes, in the same conversation, I said, can I get some assurances? Can I get some protection? I have something I want to tell you. I'm scared to tell you.
But you were too scared to tell them about a celebration dinner comment, and you waited almost half a year to tell them?
Well, I did wait half a year to tell them, but the notes I brought in were written right after that interview. I also wanted to get my thoughts together because I thought this day might come. And I wanted, in those first two interviews, there was a lot going on. It was pretty traumatic. So I wanted to collect my thoughts. So that's what I was doing, in addition to being pretty frightened and having to get over that idea.
Isn't it true that those comments never happened and you're upset because you believe that this family tried to frame you for murder?
Everything I'm saying is true.
I'm sure it is. May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Move to strike the I'm sure it is comment.
I'll withdraw it.
It's withdrawn. Please disregard, members of the jury.
I have no further comments for this.
Questions?
Or questions.
Redirect, examination.
This may seem like a fine point, but I want to make sure it's crystal clear. When Mr. Rashbaum was asking you about the hot tub conversation, Mr. Rashbaum said that his client said that he was friends with people in the criminal element. Is that exactly what was said?
The word I recall is he had connections and friends on both sides of the tracks.
Okay. Connections to
Criminal.
the criminal
elements. And
element.
particularly, there was the Cuban neighborhood comment that I repeated to the TPD later.
Gotcha.
Actually, on July 21st, first interview, I mentioned that comment.
Okay. How many pages of notes do you have in reference to this case?
Like right now or over the last 9 years?
I mean, kind of over the last 9 years.
Yeah. I'm a researcher by training. I'm an analytic person by nature. So those 6 months was pretty obsessive. I was reviewing every text message, every email, writing. I condensed it down. I think if you watch the videotape, you would see me bring in 3, 4, 5 pages. But I would say I wrote probably 100 pages before I came in to see them the third time.
Going through every receipt,
Yes.
every detail,
Yes.
partially out of what? What motivation?
Well, pretty traumatic. So fear was part of it. Like if they can catch the people that did this, I'll be safe. That was a big piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, this was a brutal murder and I wanted to see justice done. And I did not want to leave something sitting on the shelf. If I was in the possession of something that could help, I wanted to help.
And isn't it true that you didn't know what was going to end up being important out of all the nuggets you dug out of the phone and everywhere
I
else?
had no idea. And I also told them repeatedly, I hope and pray this wasn't Wendy and Charlie Adelson. But just in case, here's the stuff I have.
And Mr. Rashbaum asked you about why didn't you go to the police when you learned that Mr. Adelson had in fact looked into hiring a hitman? Just to reiterate, the statement was made the Monday before the murder, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And that's the statement where Wendy's relating it to you.
Yes.
All right, so that's going to be in 2014.
Yes.
Okay, and she's making a statement about something that occurred in what year?
2013.
All right. Why didn't you go to the police with this information?
Because it was a past tense thing she was reporting. I did not sense there was a present danger. I didn't know hitmen had already visited Tallahassee. I didn't realize there was an active murder plot.
In hindsight, should you have gone to the police with this information?
Yes.
One moment, please. Nothing else, Your Honor.
So cost, Mr. Dunn, Roger, you have something to do?
Maybe we go sidebar briefly.
Approach.
Yeah, Georgia Kappelman doesn't know what she's doing. She's got nothing, no evidence. Just a PowerPoint with autopsy photo. She had help with her PowerPoint. No evidence. Is that it? Jeff, flying the flag, as always. Can't wait to see you in the next trial. Welcome back. How many days are we away now? 25? 25 days, and it's jury selection. If anyone didn't know, the date's been brought forward to September 16th. A matter of weeks, a few short weeks, guys, and we'll be seeing jury selection before we kick off with opening statements in Donna Adelson's trial. How about that? Does anyone know how long it's scheduled to last for? I guess it's going to be around the same time as Charlie's, maybe about 8 days, 10 days. Yeah, how you feeling about how all that went, Charlie? You thinking that Jeff got embarrassed and humiliated and shown to be a liar on the stand? Yeah. We can't all be as personable and likable as you, Charlie. Come on. Yeah, hit the like. Do what our fantastic moderator says. Yeah, it's a sweet birthday present for you, Amy, huh? Okay. Good to see everybody again. Gotta get Photoshop sorted. Yeah, but I think probably we'll go back into the witch's lair tomorrow with Wendy's testimony from 2023, Charlie Adelson's trial. Have a look what we see about that, because it's kind of interwoven with what we've been watching tonight. And then maybe we'll take a little tiny break from the Adelson case, or I've been thinking about cleaning up the audio on some of the jailhouse calls because it's a bit torturous. It's very high pitched. Maybe I can do something with that. And then we can go through some of Donna and Charlie's calls and have a look if we find anything relevant for her trial that's coming up, because it is fast approaching. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Okay, it was a little bit over tonight, guys, a little bit more than 2 hours, but that's okay. That's okay. And okay, we will sign off. Be kind to each other. Don't be an Adelson. Have a safe drive home. Good night. Good luck to you. God bless you.